You worked for it. You increased your income. You became more responsible with money. So why can't you relax? Why does checking your bank account still feel necessary? Why does spending feel like a decision you have to defend even to yourself? And why does financial calm feel suspicious? Like something is about to go wrong. There's a specific kind of tension that doesn't go away when your income improves. It doesn't disappear when you save more. It doesn't even disappear when you become good with money. If anything, it becomes more subtle, more constant. You start checking your bank account more often, not because you need information, but because you need reassurance. And for a few seconds, it works. You see the number. You feel okay. But then, a few hours later, you check again. Not because something changed, but because something inside you didn't settle. Micro insight. You're not checking your money. You're checking your safety. And this creates a strange contradiction. From the outside, your behavior looks responsible, disciplined, aware. But internally, it doesn't feel like control. It feels like alertness. Like your system is always slightly activated, always scanning, always preparing, even when nothing is wrong. This is where most people misunderstand what's happening. They think, if I had more money, I would finally relax. But you already increased your income, and that didn't solve it. Because financial safety and emotional safety are not the same thing. Your bank account can change fast. Your nervous system doesn't. Micro insight. Income can grow quickly, but your sense of safety updates slowly. If you've ever experienced instability around money, even in subtle ways, your brain learns something very specific. Money is not stable. Money can disappear. Money must be monitored, and once that belief is installed, it doesn't automatically disappear when your situation improves. So even when things are fine, your system behaves like they're not. You prepare for problems that don't exist. You think about worst-case scenarios automatically. You hesitate before spending even on things you can clearly afford. And rest starts to feel irresponsible. Living like this has a cost, but it's not obvious because it hides behind responsibility. You don't enjoy money. You manage it. You don't experience spending. You negotiate with it. Every decision becomes a calculation. If I spend this, what does that mean for later? If something goes wrong, will I regret this? If I relax, am I being careless? And slowly, something important disappears. Your ability to feel at ease with money. Micro insight. You're not trying to grow money anymore. You're trying to prevent loss at all times. This is why even good financial moments feel incomplete. You hit a milestone, but your mind immediately moves to, what's next? What could go wrong? How do I protect this? You never fully arrive. To deal with this tension, most people develop one strategy. Control. You track everything. You optimize. You organize. And for a moment, it works. You feel calmer when you're monitoring your money, not when you have it. Let that sink in. Micro insight. Control doesn't create safety. It creates temporary relief. The more you track, the more sensitive you become. Small expenses start to feel bigger. Minor fluctuations start to feel meaningful. You begin reacting to things that don't actually matter, and your emotional baseline becomes tied to constant observation. This creates a loop. You feel anxious. You check your finances. You feel temporary relief. Anxiety returns. You check again. Over and over. At some point, money stops being just money. It becomes divided emotionally. You start creating categories like, this is safe money. This is don't touch money. This is guilt money. This is allowed money. And each category has rules, not logical rules, emotional ones. Even if you have enough, it doesn't feel like you do. Because every part of your money is restricted in a different way. Micro insight. Abundance with emotional restrictions still feels like scarcity. So instead of freedom, you experience tension in different forms. Now we get to the real layer. This isn't just behavior. This is identity. At some point, you became someone who is careful with money. Someone who doesn't relax. Someone who stays alert. And that identity feels necessary. Because in your mind, if I stop being this person, I could lose everything. So even when your reality changes, your identity doesn't. Micro insight. You don't trust money. You trust vigilance. And that creates a hidden conflict. You want peace. But peace feels like risk. Most of this isn't conscious. It shows up in small moments. You hesitate before buying something simple. You feel a subtle tension after spending. You avoid fully enjoying what you paid for. You delay experiences you could easily afford, not because you can't, but because something inside you says, be careful, and that voice feels responsible, even when it's excessive. Micro insight. You don't feel safe spending, you feel safe holding back. Here's where things get even more complex. Your life improved. Your income increased. Your situation changed, but your self-perception didn't. So now you live in two realities. One where you're financially stable, and one where you still feel like you're not. And your behavior follows the second one. You downplay your progress. You act more restricted than necessary. You don't feel like someone who can afford peace. And because of that, you never allow yourself to fully experience what you've built. At this point, it becomes clear. Money is not the root of the stress. It's the trigger. Money activates deeper fears. Loss of control. Fear of going backwards. Fear of instability. Fear of not being enough. So when you react to money, you're not reacting to numbers. You're reacting to what those numbers mean. Micro insight. Money doesn't create your emotions. It reveals them. There's a psychological pattern here called loss aversion, but you don't need the term to feel it. You already know it. Losing money feels intense. Gaining money feels neutral after a while. So your system becomes focused on protection, not growth. You start playing defense instead of actually living. Another layer most people don't notice. You get used to anticipating problems. You mentally simulate financial disasters. You think through what-if scenarios constantly. And strangely, this feels productive. It feels like you're being prepared, in control, responsible. But in reality, you're reinforcing anxiety. Micro insight. Preparing for problems can become a way to justify staying anxious. Here's the paradox. Your system got used to tension. So when things are calm, it doesn't feel good. It feels unfamiliar. And what's unfamiliar feels unsafe. So you recreate stress. You check again. You think again. You analyze again. Not because you need to, but because your system expects it. So what changes this? Not more money. Not more control. A different relationship. The first shift is simple but uncomfortable. Separating awareness from hypervigilance. You don't need to constantly monitor money to be responsible. You can know your numbers without living inside them. Most people think responsibility feels like tension, but it doesn't. Micro insight. Real financial responsibility feels calm. Not anxious, it's consistent. Clear. Predictable. You don't need stress to prove you care about money. This is where things become real. You don't trust yourself with money, so you over-control. But trust isn't built through control. It's built through experience, small decisions, without over-analysis, without panic. Letting yourself spend and noticing that nothing breaks. Letting yourself relax and seeing that stability remains. This is not about drastic change. It's about subtle shifts. Instead of checking constantly, you check intentionally. Instead of reacting immediately, you observe your reaction. Instead of restricting everything, you allow specific areas of freedom. And at first, it will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. Because you're not just changing behavior, you're updating your emotional system. Over time, something shifts. Money stops being something you guard and becomes something you interact with. You don't feel the need to check constantly. You don't feel tension after every decision. You don't need reassurance all the time. And the most important change? You feel neutral. Not euphoric. Not anxious, just stable. This was never about money. It was about what money came to represent. Safety, control, protection, identity. And when those things get attached to money, you stop relating to it clearly. You start relating to it emotionally. You thought more money would make you relax, but money doesn't create peace. It exposes whether peace already exists internally. Final insight. Relaxing with money is not something you earn through accumulation. It's something you build by feeling safe without needing constant control. If this felt familiar, then this isn't just about money. This is about how you learn to feel safe and how that pattern still shapes your life today. This channel is for people who want to understand that, not just financially, but psychologically. 5 memorable lines. You're not checking your money, you're checking your safety. Income can grow quickly. Your sense of safety doesn't. Control doesn't create peace, it creates temporary relief. Abundance with emotional restrictions still feels like scarcity. You don't trust money, you trust vigilance.